Prince William just made a move that's sending shockwaves through Westminster. And what happened in the last 48 hours reveals a constitutional crisis brewing beneath the surface of British politics. On Monday, March 10th, Kensington Palace announced that Prince William would not attend the Commonwealth Day reception at Lancaster House. The timing couldn't be more explosive. Just weeks after Labour's proposal to reform royal funding emerged in leaked Treasury documents, the future king has drawn a line in the sand. If you want the full story the mainstream media is dancing around, hit subscribe now. This goes deeper than you think. Here's what actually happened. The Foreign Office had coordinated with Kensington Palace for weeks about William's appearance at this high-profile diplomatic event. Over 40 Commonwealth ambassadors, 300 dignitaries, international media. This was supposed to be a showcase of Britain's soft power. Then, 15 minutes before the scheduled arrival, the palace sent a terse message. His Royal Highness would not be attending. No explanation, no replacement. According to 3 sources inside the Foreign Office, Foreign Secretary David Lammy was blindsided. The diplomatic scramble was immediate and chaotic. But here's what makes this unprecedented. Royal boycotts of government events simply don't happen in modern Britain. The last comparable incident, you'd have to go back to the 1936 abdication crisis. So what's actually driving this? Follow the timeline. January 15th. The Guardian reports on leaked Treasury documents exploring a 40% reduction in sovereign grant funding. Not 90%, as some outlets claim, but still significant enough to force operational changes at royal households. February 3rd, Prime Minister Keir Starmer gives an interview where he suggests the monarchy should be more accountable to parliamentary oversight. The language is careful, but the implication is clear. February 28th, Princess Anne cancels 3 government-linked engagements. Palace sources cite scheduling conflicts, but insiders tell a different story. She's furious about what she sees as political interference. March 10th, William's boycott. The pattern is undeniable. This isn't one isolated incident. It's a coordinated royal pushback against what they perceive as government overreach, and whether you support the monarchy or not, this matters because it exposes a genuine constitutional tension that hasn't been this visible in generations. Let's talk about what's really at stake here, because the implications go far beyond royal drama. First, the financial reality. The sovereign grant currently costs British taxpayers £86 million annually. That's roughly £1.29 per person. Labour's proposal would cut this to around £50 million, with royals covering the difference through private estate income. The Crown Estate generates over £300 million in annual profits that go to the Treasury, so the math gets complicated quickly. Second, the constitutional question. Britain's unwritten constitution relies on conventions, not laws. The monarch reigns but doesn't rule. The government governs with royal assent. But what happens when these conventions are stress-tested? We're finding out in real time. Third, public opinion. And this is where it gets fascinating. Recent YouGov polling shows 62% of Britons support the monarchy, but 54% also believe it should be funded differently. These aren't contradictory positions. People want the institution, but question the cost. The pound did drop 0.8% on Tuesday, not 6%, but currency markets did react, which tells you international investors are watching this closely. Constitutional instability spooks capital. Now, Buckingham Palace isn't commenting officially, that's standard protocol, but behind the scenes, the machinery is moving. King Charles held an emergency meeting with his private secretaries on Tuesday evening. According to 2 separate palace sources, the discussion focused on how to maintain the dignity of the institution while not appearing obstructionist to an elected government. Princess Catherine has reportedly been in close consultation with William. She cancelled her early years summit scheduled for next week, citing medical advice. But multiple sources suggest the real reason is solidarity with William's stance. And here's the detail nobody's talking about. The palace has quietly hired 3 constitutional lawyers in the past month. Not for litigation, but for advice. They're preparing for scenarios that haven't been seriously considered since the 1970s. What could those scenarios include? Royal refusal of assent on legislation, dissolution of Parliament, even the nuclear option of the monarchy going fully financially independent through the Duchy of Lancaster and Cornwall estates. These aren't conspiracy theories. These are real constitutional mechanisms that exist but haven't been used in living memory. Meanwhile, Number 10 is in damage control mode. Keir Starmer faces a brutal political calculation. Labour's base wants modernisation. They see royal funding reform as low-hanging fruit. Why should working families struggling with cost of living subsidise palaces? But the optics of warring with the royals, political poison. Even Labour voters have a 51% favourability rating for the monarchy. Starmer can't afford to look like he's attacking a beloved institution, while his approval ratings sit at 34%. The cabinet is reportedly split. Chancellor Rachel Reeves pushed for the funding reforms as part of broader fiscal tightening. But Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner warned it could become a culture war distraction from Labour's economic agenda. And there's the Commonwealth dimension. Britain's post-Brexit strategy relies heavily on strengthening Commonwealth ties. A royal family in open conflict with the government undermines that entirely. Australia, Canada, and New Zealand are watching closely. Several Commonwealth realms are already debating their constitutional future. So where does this go from here? 3 possible scenarios. Scenario 1. De-escalation through back channels. The palace and government reach a quiet compromise. William attends future events. The funding reforms are softened or delayed. Both sides claim victory through careful wording. This is the most likely outcome because both institutions have more to lose from open warfare. Scenario 2. Escalation. If Labour pushes forward with aggressive reforms, expect more royal boycotts. We could see William refuse to attend the state opening of Parliament in November. That would be constitutional dynamite. It's never happened in modern history, and it would force a genuine crisis. Scenario 3. The long game. The royals go quiet, appear to comply, but begin a strategic shift toward financial independence over the next decade. They reduce reliance on the sovereign grant, build alternative revenue streams, and position themselves as self-funding. This actually strengthens their position long-term because it removes the main Republican argument about taxpayer cost. My read? We're heading for Scenario 1 with elements of Scenario 3. The palace will bend publicly, but manoeuvre privately toward greater autonomy. But zoom out for a second. This story is really about something deeper than William versus Starmer. It's about an ancient institution colliding with modern democratic expectations. It's about unwritten rules being tested in real time. It's about national identity in a country still figuring out what it means. Post-Brexit, post-empire, post-everything it once was. The British monarchy has survived for over 1,000 years by being flexible, by adapting just enough to remain relevant without losing mystique. Charles adapted after Diana. William adapted after Harry's exit. They'll adapt again. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Every adaptation weakens the magic a little. The monarchy's power comes from its symbolic distance from politics. The moment it becomes a political football, it loses something irreplaceable. And that's what's really at stake. Not funding percentages or attendance lists, but whether an institution rooted in medieval tradition can survive in a society that increasingly demands transparency, accountability, and value for money. So is this a constitutional crisis? Not yet. But it's a constitutional warning shot. William's boycott was calculated. It was a message. We have boundaries, we have leverage. Don't push us into becoming political actors because you won't like the result. Whether that message was wise is debatable. But it was definitely heard. The question now is whether both sides have the wisdom to step back from the brink. What do you think? Is William right to push back, or is this an elected government's job to modernise institutions? Drop your honest take in the comments. I read every single one, and the best debates happen there. If this deep dive gave you context you're not getting elsewhere, do 2 things. 1. Hit that like button so this reaches more people. 2. Subscribe, because tomorrow we're breaking down the leaked Treasury documents everyone's arguing about, but nobody's actually read. And if you want to support truly independent analysis that doesn't pick sides, there's a super thanks button below. Every bit helps us keep doing this without corporate backing. The establishment doesn't want you asking these questions, so let's keep asking them. See you tomorrow.